Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Good evening. It is so good to be back here in front of a microphone, in front of a computer screen, talking to you fine folks out there. You guys know who this is. My name is Brandon. You can go ahead and follow me on Twitter at Brandon_Snide. Brew City Pod is now part of Game On Wisconsin, and I could not be more excited to be a part of such an amazing group of people. I'm so thankful for all of the folks over at Game On for giving me this opportunity, giving me this platform, and we are going to break down all of Wisconsin sports all the time. No BS. The new show, Cut the BS. If you guys are unaware, my initials are BNS, Brandon Snide, and that's where the name comes from. So I'm super excited to be here every week, every Thursday. I'm going to get in front of a microphone. I'm going to get in front of my camera, and I'm going to yell into a microphone. And I hope you guys give it a listen. And I'm thrilled to be here. I'm so excited. And again, it's just it's a great opportunity. Such an amazing platform, and I'm thrilled to be here. Tonight's show, I had a whole show planned to focus around our Bucks and our Brewers, and as well as our Packers, and look ahead to the Badgers as well. And then Wednesday rolled around and completely derailed all of our plans to talk about the rest of those teams. So it's going to be more of a Packer-based show tonight. I am going to touch a little bit about the Milwaukee Bucks. The Brewers obviously had an early exit, so I'm coming to you guys about a month after their season ended, unfortunately, way too soon than we anticipated. So we're going to go ahead and wait till the winter meetings kick off, the trade market starts to heat up a little bit, and the free agency market kicks off. Then we will come back here and we will talk about the Brewers. But from here on out, we're going to focus around the Packers, the Bucks, and a little bit of the Badgers and where they stand. They could win the West. It's not over yet. The Badgers could go to win the West, and you know what that means? Our annual beat down by Ohio State if Ohio State does indeed get to the Big Ten championship, which I would imagine they would. So I know Jacob, our good buddy Jacob out there, is not going to be too happy about that, but I would pick Ohio State to probably win the East, and then if the Badgers can win outright, they're back in the Big Ten championship game. And how this season started, I will take that. I know we have a bigger picture as Badger fans. You don't want to get to the Big Ten championship game and always get your behinds kicked, but I'll take it. So we'll talk about the Badgers during this show. We'll talk about the Bucks. We'll talk about the Brewers. We'll talk about the Packers. It's a jam-packed show, and every show I bring you guys every Thursday. Also, another thing, Thursdays are one of my favorite days of the week. I love Saturdays and I love Fridays, but like Thursdays are that day before it all happens, that night before it all happens. It's kind of the unofficial kickoff to the weekend, so to speak. So I'm excited to be here on Thursdays. Usually everybody's in a good mood on Thursdays. You don't have a whole lot of bad moods on Thursdays. Obviously, if something is going on in your life, then it is what it is. But for the most part, everybody is in a good mood Thursday. We got Thursday night football kicking off, so bear with me if you guys are waiting for that exciting matchup between the Colts and the Jets. You can put it on mute. Give the Cut the BS show a listen. It's the first episode. I'm so excited to be here. Rhonda, we got Todd's mom. She is here for the new show. Ma'am, thank you. Thank you so much. I do appreciate it. Just really eager to get going here with this show. My boy Adam always popping up on my shows. Again, I can't tell you how thrilled I am to be here. It's going to be a show. When I ran Brew City Pod, for those that don't know me, I was born and raised in Wisconsin, Milwaukee primarily. And I was in the Army for a long time. I kind of traveled all around the world. So I'm back home. All my teams are in Wisconsin. I brought the idea up to Jacob. I thought, what a better way to kick off a show and be able to cover every team. A lot of shows, within this network, are solely based around the Packers. So we're a little bit different, and different's good. That's okay. We're excited. I'm excited. I hope you're excited. We're going to dive right into it. Go Navy, beat Army. The Badgers, we'll see. I don't know. I can't speak on the Navy right now, but I do appreciate you tuning in. Thank you. Is over on YouTube. I think we're all over right now through Game On Wisconsin on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter. And you can follow us on Twitter at Game On WI. Like I said before in the show, if you just tuning in, you can follow me on Twitter at Brandon_Snide. So we're going to dive right into it. I do have a guest coming on the show. That's the other thing, real quick, before I go off on a tangent here. Every week I'm going to try to bring on a guest. Now, this is more of a solo podcast. It's going to be, obviously, I'm going to be the main host of the show. You're going to hear me and my opinions more times than not. But every week I intend to bring on that guest, whether it be the Packers or the Bucks or the Brewers or whoever. My goal is to bring you guys a guest, to an expert, whatever team that is. So that will get tweeted out all week, in advance. I will be obviously promoting that, and you can catch that on Twitter, on Facebook. But I am having a guest, a good friend of mine, Paul Bretl, is going to be joining the show. He's a writer for Dairyland Express, part of the Fansided family, and also for Cheesehead TV. He is a guy like me. He's a Wisconsin fan, all Wisconsin all the time. So he's going to be joining me here in about 15-20 minutes. So before we get off to the Packers, and there's just so much to talk about the Packers. I understand the news kind of derailed where I wanted to take this show. So we're going to have a lot of Packers talk. That's definitely going to come up. Aaron Rodgers obviously tests positive for COVID-19, the vaccine drama that ensued, whether he's vaccinated or not, or treatments, whatever it was. We'll talk to Paul about it. We'll get his opinions about it. And then I want your guys' feedback on the whole Aaron Rodgers saga as well. How do you feel about it as a fan? How do you feel about Jordan Love? How do you feel about Matt LaFleur? We're going to get into all of that. If you guys are on the live stream and you're dropping comments, I promise I will get out there and I will read them. Rhonda again drops in. I'm sure the folks out there would love to hear more from my Winnipeg son. If you need a guest, yes, Todd is definitely going to be joining me, definitely down the road. We have some stuff kind of worked out together, and him and I have been working together before on Brewers podcasts before. So we have a great working relationship. Excited to talk to him. Hopefully when baseball starts kicking off a little bit, but I did want to start real quick with the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, again, I don't know about you guys, if you're Bucks fans, if you're not Bucks fans, if you're if you're just because they're in Milwaukee, they're you're aware of them, they're in Wisconsin, whatever. They're off to a 4-4 start. And I don't care. Like, the Bucks record doesn't bother me right now. In fact, I don't really care what the record looks like until after New Year's Day. That's kind of how I view the NBA. Like, it's great that the NBA's back. It's exciting that the NBA's back. Baseball's done. Congratulations to the Atlanta Braves. The Brewers again lost to the inevitable World Series champion, the third year in a row that's happened. So the Washington Nationals, the Los Angeles Dodgers, and now the Atlanta Braves. So you are all welcome as Brewers fans. It's apparently that it's the Good Luck Chuck. If you guys are know the movie that I'm referencing is, the Brewers obviously have to lose to you in order to win the World Series. But in all seriousness, congratulations to the Atlanta Braves. Exciting for them. And now we focus our attention to the Milwaukee Bucks. Obviously the Packers are in the middle of the season, and it wouldn't be a Packer season without the drama that is ensuing 1265 Lombardi. Like I said, we'll get to that in a little bit, but I did want to dive into a little bit of this Milwaukee Bucks. And I want to give a little bit of a round of applause to Bucks Twitter. If you're a Bucks fan and if you're on Twitter, or if you're on Facebook, or you're part of the Milwaukee Bucks Facebook groups, I call Twitter and Facebook, I call it the dark web. Instead of the dark world, it's its own little world, essentially, as the internet. But I call it the dark web because that's essentially what it is. It's all bad all the time, and everybody knows everything, and nobody wants to get along on that on those platforms. So I call it the dark web. And if you jump on the dark web these days, there's not a whole lot of panic out of Milwaukee Bucks fans, which obviously they just won a championship, so there shouldn't be. And that's encouraging as a fan because for the most part, this team is returning most of those players. Now, obviously, PJ Tucker, and he's had his thoughts about exactly how he felt treated by the organization. So he's obviously not part of the team. But I mean, you got Giannis, you got Pat Connaughton, Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday, Brook Lopez. And then you had a couple key pieces that were added that I kind of think snuck under the rug a little bit. And didn't get a whole lot of talking about, but I thought the Grayson Allen trade was really big at the time. It was kind of that guy that mirrored Dante's game, not obviously identical to each other. I think Grayson Allen has a better shooting percentage and a better 3-point percentage. But defensively, they're pretty good. They're plus defenders. So I thought that was a really good move for the Milwaukee Bucks. But this 4-4 start doesn't bother me. So if you're a Bucks fan, you're on YouTube, you're on Twitter, you're on Facebook, drop a comment. Let me know how you feel for this Bucks season. We saw them get their rings. Just such an emotional night. I can imagine for the players. For me, it was an emotional night. So I'm excited to, see the where this team goes throughout the whole year. You're going to get every team's, best shot. You're going to get every single team. You have a target on your back. Every single night, you're going to get whoever you're playing, no matter where you go. If it's Memphis, if it's Brooklyn, Miami, Portland, LA, it doesn't matter. All these teams want to knock off the champion, and that's what you are. And you're going to have to deal with it every single night. But you're 4-4. Jacob, Grayson Allen does not suck. He's actually a really good player. I appreciate you for your opinion, but I think he's a great player, and I'm excited for him to be in Milwaukee, and I'm excited to see what he can do with this Milwaukee Bucks team, especially in the playoffs. But if you're looking at this team, a 4-4 start, they're kind of in the middle of the road of every stat, throughout the NBA, through points, rebounds, offensive efficiency, defensive efficiency. They're kind of all in the middle of where the rest of the NBA is. And I'm okay with that. That's perfectly fine. You do not have Chris Middleton tested positive for COVID. What a week for Wisconsin sports. Chris Middleton, Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, all within like a week of each other. But you don't have Chris Middleton, your second best player. You don't have Drew Holiday. Looks like he's going to be probable for tomorrow. So you don't have Drew Holiday. You don't have your starting point guard. And then a guy that really doesn't get the credit he deserves. Now, I know Giannis has gone out there and said on numerous occasions how much he loves Brook Lopez, how much Brook Lopez means to him on both sides of the ball, especially defensively. If you remember in the bubble when Giannis won his Defensive Player of the Year award, the first person he brought up was Brook Lopez. And he said, I couldn't have done, and I'm paraphrasing Giannis, of course, I couldn't have done these things without Giannis. So I think having Brook Lopez not in the lineup for 7 straight games now, it's obviously an issue, on both sides of the ball, especially defensively, like we were just talking about. And this team is still trying to figure out who they are. I know a lot of them returned from that championship team. I know a lot of them are coming back from last year, and Bobby Portis is working his way back. George Hill is obviously working his way back. I think, you got to give them a little bit of time. If there is, a little bit of impatience surrounding the Milwaukee Bucks, I would advise you to just kind of relax, like with using an Aaron Rodgers analogy, just RELAX. I mean, this team is going to be, they're going to be good. They're going to be a top 3, top 2 team in the NBA. McQuaid's over on YouTube. He drops in a comment. I think Brooks started to get the recognition that he deserves when he put up 30 against the Nets with Giannis out. Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. Like that's a really good point. And I think when Giannis is out, it amplifies everybody else's play. Obviously, they need to, all of them, the whole team, when Giannis is not playing in a key game. I'm not talking about not playing in like October or November, but in a playoffs position. We saw it in the Eastern Conference Finals last year when he did not play game 5 and 6 against the Atlanta Hawks. And you saw Chris Middleton step up. You saw a big game from PJ Tucker. You saw these guys step up and play big roles. McQuaid, I think I think it was the Hawks. I knew what you were talking about, but I'm almost pretty sure it was. Yeah, I think it was the Hawks. I know what you're referring to though, because he did have a monster game. But you're absolutely right. When Giannis is out, and look, there's going to be times that Giannis stretches throughout this year that Giannis is just not going to be able to play. We saw it, obviously, in the Eastern Conference Finals. We're going to see it throughout the year. He's going to play games, stretches of 10, 15, and then he's going to not play for, a stretch of 5 to 7 games. And that's fine with me. I would rather have a healthy Giannis. I would rather have a healthy Brook. I know there's concern out there with Brook because of it. It's a back soreness, and he hasn't progressed in the way that I think the team, Mike Budenholzer, or the training staff wants him to progress to. But on the flip side of things, I think that, they're looking at the bigger picture, and I think he's going to be okay. And I think moving forward, keep this pace that you're at. Just so we're aware, real quick, before we go any further with this show, real quick, I got to make this announcement for those that are listening. And if you're on the show and you're listening, thank you so much. I seriously mean it. I'm living a dream right now, and I appreciate it. I will always throw shade at Chicago, just so we're all aware. If you're a Chicago fan, I'm sorry. If you're living in Chicago, I'm sorry for you, but I will throw shade at Chicago. Back to what I was saying now. The Bucks are 4-4. And you look at the Eastern Conference, and the Brooklyn's going to be there. Obviously, the Bucks are going to be there. And then the Bulls are, having a parade because they won a couple games, early in October. They're going to probably be better. I don't know how great they're going to be or how good they're going to be later on down the road, but the Eastern Conference really isn't that top heavy. I mean, it's the Milwaukee Bucks. It's the Brooklyn Nets, maybe. I mean, maybe, and that's no shade at KD or James Harden, because I think they're both great at what they do. And I think Kevin Durant, I've said it before, I think he's the best scorer in the NBA history. I don't know if they're going to work out long term. We have not seen them consistently play together. They only played 12 games before James Harden and Kyrie Irving went down in the Eastern semis last year. So we don't know what Kyrie Irving is going to be, where he's going to be. Is that something where they just end up trading him? So Brooklyn's kind of a question mark. You would imagine with the talent that they got, they're probably going to be fine. They're probably going to be there at the end of the year. Obviously the Bucks, like we've mentioned before, and then that's kind of it right there, right? Like that's where you're at right there. Those are your two elite teams in the Eastern Conference. And then you got a bunch of other okay, good, could be great teams. You got Chicago. Obviously, Atlanta took a huge step last year. I know we beat them in the Eastern Conference Finals. Man, I love watching that team. They are just full of energy, great scorers, great shooters. Trae Young had a heck of a year last year. So it's fun to watch them play. As much as I don't want to lose to them, they're a fun team to play. And I like Trae Young. I like where the NBA went with the ruling, though, and I know Trae Young was in that discussion. Obviously, James Harden, LeBron James with the extra flopping in basketball. So yeah, I mean, for the Milwaukee Bucks, being 4-4, getting guys back healthy, obviously you're missing 3/5 of your starting lineup, and you're 4-4 for the most part of this season. I'll take that. I like that. I don't know about you guys. If there are Bucks fans on the show, what are your concerns? Do you have any concerns before we close off with the Milwaukee Bucks? Are there concerns for you thus far? 8 games into the season, 4-4. They already had a mini road trip. They got their rings from the commissioner, Adam Silver, and the next day they were on a 3-game road trip. So I'm not sure if that's the first team to win a championship that was sent out on a road trip after they got their rings, but nonetheless, the Milwaukee Bucks were one of them. And they're 4-4, and I'm okay with where they're being. I want there to get, those guys to get better. George Hill's back in this system, reacquaint him into the system. And obviously you want guys like Bobby Portis and Jordan Nwora is going to get a whole lot more playing time, which I'm excited about. I was watching him the other night and I said it to myself. I said, this dude, he's got a green light every time. And that's fine. But for a second round guy, I mean, to just come into the system, and it shows you, it goes and gives you credit to Giannis and Coach Bud. There's a green light, shoot it, let it rip, let it go. So, key pieces for the Milwaukee Bucks, obviously they acquired Rodney Hood and Semi Ojeleye. I know he's getting a lot of heat over on Bucks Nation, but I think he's going to be okay. I think this team is going to be okay. They're going to be fine. It's big picture now, guys. We're champions. The Milwaukee Bucks are world champions. we do not need to worry about what happens in October right now other than health. Really, you don't need to worry about anything what happens other than health until probably January. And then you start turning it on. And then those minutes go up. Really, like for me, the unofficial day to NBA season, the NBA regular season is Christmas Day. We see those marquee matchups, Giannis, LeBron, KD, James Harden, Trae Young. And that's when it really starts to get going. And you see the competitive games on Christmas Day. And those are the games that guys are kind of amped up for, and they're ready to go. So I'm excited to see where this team goes, from here on out. I think they're going to be a team that's just going to kind of, be 500, be a couple games over 500, and eventually they're going to just hit a switch and turn it on. And I think I think that's okay. And we'll see what happens at the trade deadline. And going forward, this team's going to be fine, especially when Giannis is in the lineup and Jrue Holiday and Chris Middleton. That big three, I'll put that big three up against any team in really all of the NBA. I think they're that special. But with that being said, we are going to transition to the Green Bay Packers. If you're unaware, if you've been maybe living under a rock, if maybe you have no idea what's going on with the Green Bay Packers. Unfortunately, the Green Bay Packers star quarterback, Hall of Fame type quarterback, Aaron Rodgers did indeed test positive for COVID-19 on Tuesday. Obviously, that's putting his status in doubt, as out. He's in doubt. He's doubtful for the 13th. The 13th of November is as soon as he can come back. So there's a whole heck of a lot of drama surrounding the Green Bay Packers, about his vaccine status earlier in training camp. Somebody asked him, I believe it was Ryan Wood of the Green Bay Press Gazette. They asked him if he was vaccinated. He said, I'm immunized. Jamie, how you doing? Hello. Thank you so much. I appreciate you coming on. I am new to Game On Wisconsin. I know you're a huge fan of Game On. I appreciate you jumping on. Maybe one of these days we'll have to get you on and talk some Packers. Right now we're breaking down the unfortunate news of the Packers, obviously of the sporting world. Apparently, it's kind of everywhere. It's inevitable. No matter where you go, no matter where you look, you see Aaron Rodgers and you see a picture of him with a mask not on and somebody talking about what the heck is going on in Green Bay. And obviously there's a whole heck of a lot of issues surrounding the Green Bay Packers, but two surprise guests, being joined by Paul Bretl. I told you guys I would have a special guest on. I told you I would get a guest on each week. You can find his work over at Dairyland Express, part of the Fan-Sided program. You can also find him at Cheesehead TV. Paul, how you doing, man? Thanks for jumping on.
Yeah, absolutely, Brandon. I am doing terrific. And of course, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So I just got done going on a little tangent about the Milwaukee Bucks. I know there's a lot of fans out there that are kind of freaking out. We're not going to talk about the Bucks because apparently I'm not sure if you're aware, Paul, there's like some Aaron Rodgers news in the world that circulated within the last 24, 48 hours, however long it's been. I feel like this week's been like 20 days. So
there's been a lot of news.
We'll dive right into it, Paul. You're doing whatever you're doing yesterday. The news breaks that Aaron Rodgers tested positive for COVID-19. Your thoughts were what?
Well, I mean, of course, we want Aaron Rodgers to be all right in all of this. I guess, there is the initial shock, not to say that I wasn't shocked, but, he's not the first player on the team this season. Devontae, Lazard was a close contact, but Malik Taylor, Tyler Lancaster, Joe Barry, I mean, it's kind of been circulating its way through the team a little bit. So in that regard, I wasn't completely shocked because it's something that Green Bay's had to deal with for, I think, over a month now. So it wasn't a complete shock again for that reason. But I mean, anytime that initial, hey, you're going to be without Aaron Rodgers, you're like, oh, okay, that's not ideal. But then you think about what's going to take place, and that is that, hey, we get to see Jordan Love. And I'm not going to lie, I am excited to see Jordan Love take the field because, I mean, all we've seen from him is the preseason games, which was, way more than what we had saw in 2020. But I'm excited to see what he can do. And it's going to be a really tough test on the road and against a very talented Chiefs team.
Yeah, and Paul, when you look at this Packers team, you go back to April 23rd of 2020, and I know that sounds crazy to go back that far, but if you realistically look at that drama has surrounded not only 1265, Lombardi, but like all of Packer Nation, answering the question of why you selected Jordan Love, what was going through your head. You were a game away from the Super Bowl, even though you got it, trounced by the 49ers. And there was so much question around that draft pick. And then you fast forward to this year's draft class or draft day. And then the news breaks, obviously, Adam Schefter about Aaron Rodgers not wanting to be in Green Bay. He said it over and over. The Packers have lost Aaron Rodgers. They have lost Aaron Rodgers. And then you get into training camp and he shows up the night before. People are tracking his plane late at night. And then they get embarrassed the first week of the season. And then they bounce back and they win 7 in a row. And in doing so, in winning 7 in a row, they've overcome so much. I mean, you talk about multiple all-pro players, and you can't replace them. You can't replace a guy like David Bakhtiari. He's on his way to a gold jacket. Zadarius Smith, Jair Alexander. I mean, they lost so much, and they just kept answering the call. Is this another one of these weeks where we see the Green Bay Packers step up and overcome adversity?
I mean, I hope so, obviously, but I mean, it's going to be a tough one. This is his first regular season NFL start, and it is in either the toughest place to play or one of the toughest places to play. And this hasn't been the same Chiefs team that we've seen from previous years, but this offense, Tyreek Hill, Pat Mahomes, Travis Kelce, their run game, I think they're averaging almost 5 yards per carry this season. Like, it just takes the flip of a switch before this unit goes and drops 40 points on someone. And as someone on the outside looking in, obviously not following Kansas City as closely as I do the Packers, that's kind of where I'm at, where each week goes by and you're like, maybe this is the week where the switch flips and we'd see that Kansas City Chiefs team from the previous seasons. But for Green Bay, as you said, they've overcome a lot of adversity, and this is really the first season in Matt LaFleur's tenure, and it's only year 3, but this is really the first season where they've had to deal with so much on the field stuff. I mean, you already highlighted a lot of the off the field stuff that took place last year after the selection, this year just surrounding Rodgers. But for the most part, this group has been fairly healthy, I think, and correct me if I'm missing someone or if you're wrong, but the David Bakhtiari injury at the end of last season, I think that was really the first significant blow from an injury standpoint that this team suffered. And from a COVID standpoint last year, again, let me know if I'm missing anyone, but I don't think there was any sort of, significant time missed by a significant player. But that hasn't been the case this year. They've had to overcome a number of injuries. And I wrote an article about, one of the reasons how they've been able to do that. It's because guys are stepping up. Chandon Sullivan, the primary slot corner for Green Bay, he's played really well since, I think it was the Pittsburgh game. Rasul Douglas comes out of nowhere. Dean Lowry, as Rashawn Gary says, Big Dean. Big Dean's been making noise since the San Francisco game. And he's never, what he's asked to do. And Ben Fennell, he describes it as dirty work. Yeah. Dean is not someone who's going to fill the stat sheet with numbers, but the last few weeks he's been filling the stat sheet with sacks. He has 4 straight games with a sack. I think he said double-digit pressures over the last 3 games. I mean, he is making a noticeable impact. And then on the offensive side of the ball, it's the same thing. You have John Runyon Jr. coming off the bench along the offensive line. Josh Myers, when he was there, Royce Newman is rookie stepping into big roles. Lucas Patrick, I know he's a week 1 starter, but he ended up on the bench. Now he's back in at center. I mean, there's just so much of these backups or role players who have played such a big role and been such an integral part in Green Bay's ability to go 7-0. And then one other point, the additions that Brian Gutekunst made and that Arizona win, like that was a prime example. Those guys left their stamp. Devondre Campbell, Rasul Douglas, Whitney Merciless. I know I'm missing some guys off the top of my head here, but several of those additions that Brian Gutekunst made, they've left their marks as well. So it's one of those things where, and of course, helps having Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur, but through this 7-game win streak, overcoming the adversity, of the injuries, players on the COVID list, all that stuff. It's been guys stepping up. It's been LaFleur with his game plan, Rodgers pulling the right strings as well. Gutekunst has brought in guys who have stepped in and made an impact. It's one of those things where it's truly collectively a team effort. And that's what you need when you're down so many key players.
Talking with Paul Bretl, he's the editor over at Dairyland Express, part of the Fansided family, and then also part of Cheesehead TV. I was not planning for a third guest, but I am thrilled to bring in the third guest of the show, the owner of Game On Wisconsin, Jacob Westendorf. You can find him on Twitter at Jacob Westendorf. Jacob, what is going on, man?
I heard Paul was here, so anytime Paul's here, it feels like a party. So I don't think I've seen Paul since August, so I had to pop in and say hello.
Hound me about those chicken wings.
Yeah, hell yeah. Hey, man, I will be there Saturday, so
they'll be ready.
They'll be ready. All right, I'm holding you to that.
Jacob, when you're looking at this Packers team, you were listening in the green room. Obviously, they've overcome, it feels like every week there's something different. You go into Thursday Night Football, you lose your number 1 receiver, you lose your number 2 receiver, you lose your number 3 receiver, and they walk out of Arizona with a win. Your thoughts on this whole Aaron Rodgers thing? Again, this is cut the BS, so we're gonna keep politics out of it. Cut the politics out of the vaccine issues surrounding Aaron Rodgers. But what are your thoughts about what's going on over in Green Bay?
It's tough. Obviously I have my feelings on, the immunized versus vaccinated, like the question that he was directly asked and what he said and all that sort of stuff. Like personally, I think we're arguing over semantics. Like somebody said he lied. Somebody said, no, he was just deceptive. It's like, well, it's the same thing. Like, I mean, whatever. But on a football side of things, the timing isn't great. Just because it was, I guess it's better than it ever could. When's it ever a good thing, I guess, to lose your starting quarterback? And Paul mentioned, now the Packers are playing at Arrowhead Stadium, Arrowhead Stadium, to one of the toughest places in the NFL to play. And, oh, by the way, here you go, Jordan Love. It's your first ever meaningful action since you were at Utah State. But I know this, and I wrote this in my article that's actually going to come out on Packer Report tomorrow, is that I think the Packers have a better supporting cast than Kansas City does. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's skill position, because Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams is almost a wash. It's close enough. Travis Kelce is better than anyone else Green Bay has as a pass catcher. But when you compare offensive line, Green Bay wins by a mile. You compare running games, Green Bay wins by a lot. And you compare defense, Kansas City's defense is historically awful. So it's like what I wrote at the end was Jordan Love is the ultimate wild card here, because if he's able to distribute and manage the game, the Packers are going to be able to put up points because Kansas City's defense sucks. If he sucks, then, Green Bay, we could be looking at another 38-3 kind of whopper, and not a lot of measured takes are going to come out of this game. Like if Green Bay wins, Jordan Love is going to be the second coming, Matt LaFleur, all that stuff. But if Green Bay loses, Matt LaFleur's an idiot. He's been made by Aaron Rodgers. Jordan Love is a bum. I can't believe they ever picked this guy, like all that stuff. But I think Love's going to play well. And by well, I don't think he's going to throw 4 touchdowns and no picks. Like it won't surprise me if he turns the ball over a time or two, but I think he's going to play well. And I think he has the entire organization's backing. And when you have a competent backup quarterback, the rest of the team, for whatever reason, seems to play a little bit harder because they know they have to compensate for the fact that that's not the MVP back there. So I'm never more excited, I guess, because obviously you would prefer the starting quarterback play, but I'm a little more intrigued that Jordan Love is going to play this week and maybe next week.
I am under the whatever adjective you want to use. I just think that when you look at Matt LaFleur, and I've said it before on other podcasts, and I've probably tweeted it out way too many times, he just doesn't get the respect, around the league that I think he deserves. And part of that is because people look over at who he has as quarterback, and they look at, number 12, and they're like, well, he should win his first 33 out of 40 games with a Hall of Fame type quarterback. Don't remind people that, Aaron Rodgers was on a little bit of a decline, in the couple years before LaFleur got there. Paul, your thoughts on Matt LaFleur? 33 wins out of his first 40 regular season games, back-to-back NFC Championship games. Your thoughts so far on how Matt LaFleur has fared in Green Bay?
I mean, it's been excellent. The record speaks for itself. And as you said, if it was so easy to go, win 33 out of 40 games, why didn't, that happened at the end of Mike McCarthy's tenure as well? Of course, it helps having Aaron Rodgers. Matt LaFleur was on a podcast this summer, I think, with Kyle Shanahan, and I can't remember who the host of it was, but I mean, he admitted, he goes, yeah, obviously having number 12 under center helps a lot, but this offense has helped, revitalize Rodgers as well. Because what's the common theme when the Green Bay Packers lose, or when it's a blowout? They abandon the run game. They get out of rhythm. Rodgers gets out of rhythm, passes up the easy throws, tries to complete the big play. That's what we saw at the end of the Mike McCarthy era. When we see this offense playing in rhythm, taking those quick, easy passes that are there and drawn up, that's when they're at their best. So it's like with anything in football. There's never one.
Whoa, it's like anything? Is that what you just said?
I did. It's like with anything in football. There's, we all want to pick out, here's the one reason why this was good, or here's the one reason why this is bad. It's never, ever, ever that simple. And in this case, it's a marriage between Rodgers, what he brings to the table. Obviously, he's one of the best to ever do it. But also it's Matt LaFleur, his play calling, play designs, the system that he has as well. It takes both for them to go 33 and 7 during this stretch with LaFleur. It doesn't happen by accident.
Yeah, and Jacob, I want to turn the attention to a little bit away from Matt LaFleur, but his partner in crime in Brian Gutekunst. Now this year, nationally, locally, on the dark web, as I call it, Twitter and Facebook, we saw Brian Gutekunst absolutely get dragged through the mud on every occasion, on every turn, everywhere you looked, for how the handling of the Aaron Rodgers, handling of drafting Jordan Love. And you look at Brian Gutekunst this year, and you could point the finger. The finger to be pointed is it can go in multiple directions as far as the success of the team. Matt LaFleur, Aaron Rodgers, the players. But do they win those games in Arizona, Cincinnati without the likes of Devondre Campbell, Rasul Douglas? I mean, those guys are key pieces so far to the success of the 7-1 season for the Green Bay Packers. Your thoughts on the job Brian Gutekunst has done this far?
Yeah, it's easy for hot take shows and crap that they throw on the 4-letter network and Fox Sports and all that stuff to just sit there. And Brian Gutekunst is an easy target because he's an invisible person really throughout the course of the season. And when everybody's like, oh, well, you alienated Aaron Rodgers and it's because of Jordan Love, Gutekunst must suck at his job. Well, not really. Go back and look at this roster when Gutekunst took over. He had that season, Mike McCarthy's final year, where they had Clay Matthews and Nick Perry. He completely rebuilt the edge room. Zadarius Smith was a home run signing of a free agent. Preston Smith was a stand-up double signing of a free agent. And Rashawn Gary is now becoming one of the best players at his position in the entire league. Long way to go throughout the course of the season, but he has been a wrecking ball over the last month and a half. I mean, maybe almost the whole season, if we're being completely honest with Gary. And I think it's only a matter of time before the sack numbers are going to match some of his advanced stats. You look in the secondary, Adrian Amos, Darnell Savage, Jair Alexander. Those are all Gutekunst's fingerprints. The same with Eric Stokes, who looks like he could be a player. Rasul Douglas. And that is where I think the biggest difference between, and I love Ted Thompson, Packer Hall of Famer, no question, rest in peace. But at the same time, one of the complaints that you could have had with Ted Thompson was, I promise you, if Ted was the GM this year, Isaac Yadam and Shamar John Charles were starting at cornerback because that's just who we had. And those are our guys. I like my guys, he'd always say. And that was his thing. He was kind of faithful to a fault on his guys. So when you bring in a guy like Rasul Douglas and Dre Campbell, who Campbell's been a revelation, he's one of the most important players this season.
NFC on the player of the month.
Yeah. And you look at I know they didn't make a move for anybody at the deadline, but the fact that they were in on stuff, they were searching for stuff. Those are all things Ted Thompson really didn't do. Gutekunst is different from the standpoint. He's a little more aggressive. and a little more willing to go outside of his guys, his roster, if you will, to try and make a difference on the team. And he has, and you saw that. I think there's no bigger case of that than Thursday night when Rasul Douglas gets an interception that wins a game. Like, that cannot be understated, I don't think, in my opinion. And you even look at some of the guys he brought in last year. Tavon Austin didn't really work out, but it was an attempt to do something different. Snacks Harrison didn't play a ton, didn't really work out. Same idea. They kind of churn and burn the bottom of that roster throughout the course of the year. And it's why I think this year, not to throw specific names out, but Deshaun Jackson, is that something that would be a possibility? Because Green Bay might need a punt returner in their near future, something like that. Is this possible? Is that possible? Like, he's always looking for ways to upgrade the roster, which is something that I think he should be commended on. But since we do everything through the lens of the quarterback and who's the best player, and you should do everything to cater to those players, Gutekunst hasn't done that. And now he's going to continue to take blame for it, even if he really shouldn't.
Yeah. Go ahead, Paul. Go ahead.
I just wanted to add quickly, too, in regards to that, because everyone's pointing at the moves that Goody made, and outside of the Randall Cobb one, of course, that all this is being done to appease number 12. But, Jacob just brought up Tavon Austin, Snacks Harrison, Jared Valdir, Tyler Irvin the year before, and I'm sure we're missing a guy or two as well. I mean, even Tremont Williams, I know he didn't play, but before, for the playoffs last year as well. And Green Bay, as I had mentioned earlier, they haven't dealt with these type of injuries, or this number of injuries, or missing players during LaFleur's first 2 years as well. So that has also played a role in this. Again, is he talking to Rodgers more than what he has in the past, based on what Rodgers said on the McAfee show on Tuesday? It sounds like they are. Again, there's more than one answer to all this, but I don't think
you really take Rodgers' word for that. Sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But there's more than one thing that goes into all this, but it's, again, easy to point as, he's making moves to try to appease 12. But I don't think that that's all of it by any means.
Looking at this Week 9 matchup, Packers versus Chiefs, it's the Fox game of the week. Joe Buck, Troy Aikman. I love Joe Buck, just to throw that in there real quick. When you guys are looking at this matchup, and Jake, I'll start with you. Obviously, news isn't, I'm not breaking news. Jordan Love is starting. He's making his first official start. We saw a little bit of regular season action when he came in against the New Orleans Saints. He's going into arguably the hardest place to play as a visiting team in Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City. He's going up against a former MVP and Super Bowl winning quarterback in Patrick Mahomes. I would not be shocked if he won, and I will not be shocked if he loses. Your thoughts on this Packers-Chiefs matchup and how this Packers team comes out with a victory?
Yeah, it's one of those things. It sounds cliche, but it has to be a total team effort. Like, if Jordan Love has to put the team on his back and play Superman, the Packers aren't winning. That's just a lot to ask of a guy, even against a defense as shitty as Kansas City's is. And that's just the reality. But that's not going to happen. Or it's very, very unlikely, I should say. But can he be a higher ceiling version of what Matt Flynn was against the Patriots in 2010, or like some of Brett Hundley's good starts? Absolutely. He's more talented than both of those guys, far and away. The path to victory is Matt LaFleur finding ways to get the ball in the hands of his playmakers, and those guys making plays. So Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon, controlling that line of scrimmage. And on the defensive side of the ball, Pat's going to throw you one, and maybe two, and maybe three. The thing is, you got to catch those when he does and win that turnover battle. Because the other thing about it is Green Bay comes into the game with such a huge advantage every single week in the turnover battle, because Aaron Rodgers just doesn't turn the ball over. Jordan Love might, probably will, and will definitely turn it over more than Aaron Rodgers does, because Aaron Rodgers just doesn't turn the ball over. So winning that turnover battle is a big thing. And the good news for the Packers is they are one of the better teams in the league at taking the ball away. And Kansas City is the worst team in the NFL with giving the ball away. So you have to turn those turnovers into points. I think they've got to score touchdowns when they get opportunities. But this is a game, like I mentioned earlier, I think Green Bay has a better supporting cast than what Pat Mahomes and Kansas City has. because I think they can play a little defense. Are they one of the best defenses in football like their rankings say? I don't know. Probably not. We're going to find out this month how good that defense is for sure. But can they win a game now where the quarterback isn't doing everything? I think the answer for the last couple of years has been yes. The Packers won games in 2019 in spite of Aaron Rodgers. I know that's not the thing to say, but it's true. Last year, they could have won games if Aaron Rodgers didn't play his best football, and they had won games like that. Now we're going to find out, can they win a game without him? Because that is, the biggest thing, which fair or not, and I don't really think that it is, but fair or not, the biggest thing on Mike McCarthy's tombstone for why he got fired was, well, maybe not the biggest thing, but one of them is that they couldn't win when Rodgers didn't play. And now the Packers have a chance to do just that with Jordan Love. And I think that that's how Green Bay can really, Matt LaFleur, you want to win Coach of the Year? Win with Jordan Love. Mm-hmm. Go 2-0. And, if they play 2 games with him, win all of them. They play 4 games, win 3 out of 4. Just stuff like that. But I know LaFleur doesn't care about that kind of stuff, but that is one way to certainly do it. And I think the Packers have the guys to do it because they can put pressure on the quarterback. They can take the ball away, and they can be efficient on offense against a really bad defense. So I think Green Bay has, I'll say this, if I were into the wagering of jelly beans, and I would never, ever do anything that would be considered illegal, but I might put some jelly beans on the Packers plus 8.5.
Yeah, I definitely would put a handful of jelly beans on that plus 8.5. But when you last week we were talking about going against Arizona on a short week, going cross country, obviously shorthanded. We thought that was Matt LaFleur's toughest game that he was going to coach. I think this week is going to be we're going to answer real quick if whether or not this is the toughest game that he's coaching. Paul, when you look at this matchup, obviously first time starter in Jordan Love, you got 2 running backs in that organization, the Green Bay Packers do, that can obviously carry a team to a victory. How do you think Matt LaFleur and Nathaniel Hackett go into this game with Jordan Love? Is it a run heavy set? Are they running the ball, or are they going to let Jordan Love get a little loose, or is this going to be kind of a ground and pound type of game?
I think it's going to be ground and pound, but I'll add the caveat that I think that would have been the case even with Rodgers under center, maybe more so with Love. But I think I think that the path to victory, as Jacob had mentioned, is similar to what it was against Arizona, because we know the Chiefs, they're 4-4. They're not playing to their potential, but that offense, they're still top 10 in points per game. Mahomes is still top 5 in yards and touchdowns. Tyreek Hill's 5th in receiving. Kelsey's 1st among tight ends in receiving. 4.8 yards per carry as a team. Like, that's still an offense that can do some damage. And for the Green Bay Packers, it's going to be important to run the ball, which they absolutely should be able to do against this Chiefs team, and control the clock, because we want to keep Patrick Mahomes in that offense, even with the Green Bay Packers defense playing well. We want to keep them on the sidelines. We want to limit possessions and try to control the clock like they did last week against Arizona, because as I mentioned, that Chiefs offense can put up points. The flip of a switch is just one of those things where I'm just kind of waiting for it to start happening. But as well, you want to give Jordan Love as many possessions as possible, because we're likely, could be wrong, likely not going to see just that same efficiency with the offense moving up and down the field. So I think that they do lean on the run game. It's going to be a lot of the quick passing game as well, attacking the middle of the field, easy completions. Nothing groundbreaking by any means. But with that said, you're obviously adjusting the game plan somewhat because it's Jordan Love and not Aaron Rodgers. But don't protect him either. Go out there. He's a quarterback. He's been in the system for a year plus now, year and a half. Let's go see what he can do as well. So don't protect him by any means, but I think they're going to lean on the run game, quick passes, and just playing within the system. And we know that can be successful. Sean McVay went to a Super Bowl with Goff. Kyle Shanahan went to a Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo. I've said that, and I know I'm not the only one, but I've said that since Love was drafted, when people are like, oh, is he going to be the next Hall of Famer? Odds are no. But for this team to be successful within the LaFleur system with him as the head coach, he doesn't necessarily have to be a Hall of Famer for them to be a good team that can go and win games like this. So play within the system, lean on the run game, try to control the clock. Like Jacob mentioned, the defense is going to have to capitalize on some turnovers.
Looking at Paul, I'll stick with you. Looking at this Green Bay team, obviously they're looking to get some guys back. Zadarius Smith has been now around the facility. He's on Twitter. I don't know if you guys caught Preston Smith's press conference today. He said Z was quote real close to coming back. So that would obviously be tremendous. Joe Barry was at his press conference and he said he expects Jair Alexander to return. I think they're okay right now at those positions, but the one that I really want, the one player I really want back is David Bakhtiari. And Paul, right back over to you. When do you think we see David Bakhtiari?
Well, Brandon, I wrote about this about I think a week or two ago, and this game was my prediction when we'll see him back. The Washington game, that was just too short notice, and on the short week in Arizona, I never thought that was a possibility either. And I think it was Jacob who pointed out on the protected practice squad players, they did not protect Ben Braden. They've protected Ben Braden before when they were going to call him up. So they didn't. So that tends to make me think that potentially we could see Bakhtiari back. That's my guess, and it's just that a guess. But that's what I'm expecting for him to be back against Kansas City. And as you said, I mean, goes without saying, but such a massive addition.
Jacob, you agree with Insider Paul, or are you against? Are you looking at that Seattle game?
No, I think that if I'm reading tea leaves, that the non-offensive lineman being protected thing might have been a tell. That remains to be seen if it was, but I am interested to see that, because then the Packers, they gained 2 All-Pros on their offensive line. God bless Elton Jenkins. He's done a whale of a job playing left tackle, but he's not an All-Pro left tackle. He's an All-Pro left guard. We do know that.
He could be an All-Pro left tackle. He's the 5th highest rated tackle in football right now.
Well, certainly, but overall, I think that
I get what you're saying,
or a better guard, not a much better, but a better guard than he is. Now they have an All-Pro left tackle and All-Pro left guard. Lucas Patrick, who's battle tested and played some decent snaps at center. John Runyon, I would assume, plays right guard when all that happens, and then Billy Turner, who's been just as steady Eddie rock solid as you could hope to be. But I am looking forward to seeing him on Sunday. I think that's going to be the case. Is that they get Bakhtiari back for this game. And that'll be another way we talked about. How do you get Jordan Love to succeed? Well, put 2 All-Pros on his blind side, give him the best receiver in football, give him maybe the second best backfield tandem in football behind Cleveland's, and let's rock. And we'll figure out ways to scheme some stuff up. And you asked earlier, do I think that it's going to be run heavy? I don't know, because I think LaFleur is going to see Kansas City is going to play with those safeties, and they're going to come up and dare the Packers to do it. So I think they'll try. Now, whether they'll be able to or not, I think they're going to they can't. Last week, for example, when they played Arizona, they had that first goal line sequence, and all of Twitter is shouting, why didn't they run? Why aren't they running the ball? Try running it once. It's like, well, if you look at the line of scrimmage, Arizona has 10 guys on it. So, I mean, you're literally pounding your head against a brick wall. Now, should they do it anyways? Maybe. I'm certainly able to listen to an argument like that one, but when you have Aaron Rodgers, then you try and throw it, I think. And when you have Jordan Love's arm talent, I think they're going to have to try and make some plays like that. I'm just curious, Paul, I think it was you who pointed out that does Jordan Love have more chemistry with guys like Malik Taylor, who probably won't get that many snaps, but EQ, Amari Rodgers, dudes like that, because he's practiced with them more than maybe someone like Tay or MVS or Lazard and stuff like that. But the Packers have enough. And adding Bakhtiari to that mix is only going to help in terms of getting those guys in the best position to succeed. So I think he's back on Sunday, and what a welcome addition. Welcome back 69, #nice.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be a big boost, mentally for this team as well. When you're rolling out there, obviously you cannot substitute Aaron Rodgers and the quality of play that he brings to a field every single Sunday. But if you literally have everybody else other than that, that's a pretty good boost for a team that has been, completely depleted pretty much the whole season. So it's exciting to possibly get the future Hall of Famer in David Bakhtiari. We got about 5 minutes here left on the show, Paul. I want to shoot over to you a game prediction for the Packers and the Kansas City Chiefs come Sunday.
So I think you hit the nail on the head earlier, where it's one of those things where if the Packers win this game, I'm not going to be that surprised.
Yep.
If they were to lose by 3 scores, I can't say I'd be terribly surprised either, and anywhere in between. I do think it's going to be close. We've discussed it already. This is a talented Packers team. Jordan Love certainly has the talent. We'll see if that can be harnessed into, some solid quarterback play on Sunday. Relying on the run game, the quick passing game, attacking the middle of the field, defense forcing turnovers, trying to win time of possession. Those are all going to be important factors for this Green Bay Packers team and containing Patrick Mahomes in that pocket as well. But I'm going to take the Chiefs in this one. I just think ultimately Chiefs are a talented team too, and going on the road at Arrowhead for your first ever NFL start, I just can't get past that. So I'm going to take the Chiefs. I'll go 27-24.
Okay, close game. Jacob.
Jordan Love, the ultimate wild card.
Yeah.
Call it a hunch, call it a suspicion, call it not believing in quarterback wins being a stat. The Packers have the better roster. They have the better team, and I think they're playing all together better football. I just watched Kansas City almost lose a home game on Monday night against Danny Dimes and the New York Giants. Like, if Jordan Love is not better than Daniel Jones, then we got a problem. If the Packers' rest of their roster isn't better than what the Giants have, we got a problem. I do think the Packers' roster is better. I think Jordan Love's going to play well enough. I think he'll make a couple plays that make you go, what the hell are you doing? And a couple other plays that are like, okay, I can see why they drafted you now.
Mm-hmm.
But it's his second season. He's not a true rookie in that sense, even though, yes, I do understand playing in a game is different than standing and watching Aaron Rodgers play in a game. I think Green Bay wins. I think they win 27-24. But like Paul just mentioned,
okay, flipping it.
Nothing would surprise me. Like if we come in and say Green Bay lost 35-3, it wouldn't shock me. I don't think that happens. I think that's much lower on the probability scale, but it wouldn't shock me if they got just bombed in Kansas City because they're just not it. And Kansas City, the other thing about this team is Jake Morley said they're like a Ferrari that is operated by somebody with a learner's permit. Sometimes that engine revs and they can score 30 points in a blink. Other times the engine stalls out because they don't know what they're doing or they don't know why they're doing stuff. They inexplicably have turnovers. So I wouldn't be surprised by anything Kansas City's able to do, but I do think the Packers defense can make enough plays to keep them in the game. And I think Jordan Love can make enough plays to put them ahead and potentially win a game like that. So I'll tell you this, like I said, there will be no lukewarm takes on Monday morning. I promise that.
No. Yeah. Well, it's going to be an A or an F, no matter how the game goes. I'm more leaning towards the side of with Paul. I do think it's a game. Look, when you have an offense with Patrick Mahomes, and I know for the most part and all year, they really haven't been the Kansas City Chiefs that we may have come accustomed to over the last few years. But it just feels like this is I don't want to say a get-right game for them because that probably should have been Monday night, like Jacob was talking about, against Daniel Jones and the New York Giants. But eventually, you're going to see that game out of the Kansas City Chiefs that we're used to seeing. They're too good, on offense. Obviously, bringing in Orlando Brown, they probably had higher expectations for his level of play so far this year. But I still think they're going to be able to put up points. They don't run the ball. They run the ball at a 26% rate right now, which is the lowest in Andy Reid's tenure down in Kansas City. So we know they're not going to run the ball. They can't run the ball. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has obviously been out for quite a while now, and I think he's still got a couple more weeks to go. So you're going to see him throw the ball, and that's my fear with Patrick Mahomes and this Packers secondary. If you had Jair Alexander, I would feel a little bit better. I love Rasul Douglas. I became his number one fan on last Thursday night. I love Eric Stokes, but we saw Eric Stokes. The ball skills aren't completely there, and that's my fear with Tyreek Hill, a guy that can absolutely change a game. And historically, the Packers as a defense have struggled covering the tight end position. And Travis Kelce's, at home and just kind of feels like one of those games where he's just going to kind of have 6 for, a $105 and just kind of control the game. And that's my fear. And I'm leaning with Paul. I think it's going to be a little bit bigger of a difference. I'm going to go 31-21 Kansas City. But I said it before, I don't care if it's really this week, and I know Sunday my mood will change and I'll get my green and yellow face paint and put it on, and I'll want the Packers to win. But realistically, they're 7-1. They have a 4-game lead in the division. They have more wins than the division does. The rest of the division does combined. It really doesn't matter to me. I don't know about you guys, and then you can chime in before we jump off. But I don't know if this game really truly matters. The only thing that really matters to me is to see a little bit of progression from Jordan Love. We saw it in preseason. He made a couple wild throws, and then we saw a couple crap throws, into triple coverage against the Buffalo Bills in the back of the end zone. I believe Micah Hyde was the one that intercepted it, of course, former Packer. So as long as I see a little bit of something out of Jordan Love, it doesn't need to be he's the next Hall of Famer, like Paul said. That's probably very unlikely. But as long as I see something out of him, that's a win for me. And you're leaving that game, no matter what happens, at the very, very, very worst, you're 7-2. And you have at least a 3-game lead in the division, and I'm okay with that. Paul, any last thoughts before we jump off?
One big thing, the Chiefs are one of the most penalized teams in football. The Green Bay Packers are one of the least penalized teams in football. If this comes down to being a close game, that obviously could play a very big factor in this, helping Green Bay extend some drives, shorten some of Kansas City. So keep our eyes on that.
Jacob, you picked the Packers to win. I hope I'm eating crow next Thursday and that it does come to fruition. You got any final thoughts before we jump out of here?
No, I think that, this offseason gets interesting based on every game Jordan Love plays. Cause the question was always, how can you choose between Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love if you've never seen Jordan Love play? And now they could get it to where Jordan plays these next 2 games and maybe the last game of the season against Detroit, should the Packers have everything they need locked up and everything like that. So that makes everything all the more intriguing of how many things are going to change based on this game alone. Because, if he lights it up, the conversation starts. Trust me. And if he stinks, then that same conversation starts because you're going to basically need to back up a Brinks truck to beg Aaron Rodgers, because the reality is Brian Gutekunst isn't going to make a decision that gets him fired. He might make a decision like that, but he knows what's at stake. This is his legacy pick. It's his legacy decision. So I'll be interested to see how that goes, but it all starts on Sunday afternoon.
Absolutely. Gentlemen, number one, thank you for coming on the first episode of Cut the BS. I greatly appreciate it. Jacob, you know how much I appreciate you for giving me this opportunity. Paul, for giving me the opportunity at Dairyland Express to write some crap about my favorite teams. Thank you. Both you gentlemen. Thank you guys for coming on. You can follow Jacob on Twitter. If you're looking at the screen, you can see his Twitter handle. You can follow him on Twitter at Jacob Westendorf. You can also follow Paul on Twitter at Paul_Bretl.
While you're doing that, you can follow Game On Wisconsin, who now just surpassed.
That's where I was gonna go with, Jacob. You ruined it for me.
Well, that's my bad.
No, I'm just kidding.
I also want to point out that we have on Saturday, November 13th at 1:00, we'll be at the Green Bay Visitor Center giving away a $200 Packers Pro Shop gift card. So if you want to do some Christmas shopping, that's where you want to be. Come by, get a chance to win, meet some of us. I think I might even be able to talk. I know Todd Varney will be there. I think Jimmy Christensen's going to come up. So we'll have some fun with that. And then otherwise, Brandon, I'll see you next Friday.
Yeah, we have a mandate. That's right. All you can eat fish, right?
That's exactly what my wife called it. So that's great.
That'll do it, guys, for today's episode. Again, thank you, Paul. Thank you, Jacob. Every Thursday, you can find me here cutting it up. This is what is my name again? Oh, Cut the BS. I got to get used to saying the name because obviously it's a little bit different. We're all sports, all Wisconsin, no BS. We'll see you guys again next week. Thank you guys for tuning in. Follow Game On Wisconsin on Facebook, on Twitter, and subscribe on YouTube. Have a good night.